What is up, Internet Basketball Junkies? I'm here with Coach Cody Sarensen, and we're talking about program promotion. Coach Sarensen is a master program promoter, and he's going to demonstrate his email newsletter that he uses to promote his basketball program. Coach Sarensen, thanks so much for coming on and joining us here today.
Hey, Coach, thank you for having me. And, again, you do so much for the game and for the community. And, just speaking on behalf of everybody else, we really appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've never met in person, but we are both Ohio boys. You're pioneering a basketball program across the state, and I came across your materials online. I still can't figure out how I came across your materials, but I'm sure glad that I did because it's a quality example to share with the audience of how to promote a basketball program. So you're big into these powerhouse program building tactics that I talk about quite a bit. I don't know how much influence I've had, if any, on you, but I see the things that you do with your program, and it immediately reminds me a lot of the things that I talk about. Yeah. So I just want to thank you for being one of the coaches that I feel like is building a basketball program the right way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And, speaking on all those materials, they've had a lot of influence on me. There's a lot of things I think I was already doing. But there's definitely been some resources in there that I have stolen and, tweaked to my own liking. So you're doing a great job with that.
I appreciate that. I certainly didn't invent program building, but I did package it all into one location, and that's what I call this powerhouse program building. So that's kind of my signature product, and I've put all this together, and I help coaches and walk them through things that they can do with their programs to address their needs, whether it's working with their administration or building a culture or fundraising. It's all the things off the court that coaches often don't think about, and oftentimes can even run coaches out of the coaching industry because they get into coaching thinking, I want to be on the sidelines, I want to call plays, I want to put defenses in. And then they get to high school coaching and they've got to do paperwork and they've got to order uniforms and they've got to do all these things that they really didn't think about ahead of time. A lot more coaches, I think, are entering the profession with the mindset of having a big picture view of running a basketball program like a CEO. But I know that there's been some really good coaches that I've crossed paths with where a lot of this stuff just becomes too much. But today we're going into program promotion and specifically email newsletter. So this is something that I've done, and I wanted to share a little bit of the product that I put out when I was doing an email newsletter to promote a program. I want to look at yours because yours is the best that I've seen in high school basketball ever, in my opinion. And I'd like to go behind the scenes a little bit just on how you build it. So this could be like a template for coaches. If they're interested in promoting their program this way, they would have a nice sample of two different ones and also an idea of maybe how to build it. How does that sound, Coach?
That sounds awesome. And thank you for the kind words.
Hey, I'm going to pop up on the screen here some samples of what I did when I was putting out an email newsletter to promote my basketball program. We'll talk through just a little bit of what those sections look like. So when you send out an email newsletter, you're using an actual email newsletter service. So it comes in a prepackaged format that's really good, very readable. When I was doing this, I was attaching these as like documents that people had to click on or download. And that's not nearly as good as just having all the information in an email template. So I'm going to pop up on the screen a sample of what I've done here. And what we're looking at is a file that people would have to download. So what I would say with my advice is that's a barrier to entry. That's friction to getting people to see this information. So you'd want to avoid this as much as possible, having people to click a link or to download the materials to read it. But all I was doing here is I've got some graphic design skills, so I put those together. But, an opening section where we've got some quick hitters, which are basically just announcements. So we're talking about new courts that were being built outside. We're talking about our locker room getting renovated. We're talking about an event that we're putting together. So all these are just kind of announcements to get people excited. We're really promoting the things that we were doing to build better athletes here. So we had got all these partnerships with these different either training resources or equipment where we were using NST, which is a kind of a private company that helps work on, athletics. We'd bought a Vertimax machine. We'd been working on we'd got a shoot away machine. We were using functional movement screening and TRX. We were pretty advanced in what we were doing right now. And then we brought on an assistant coach that was certified by that Micah Lancaster to teach skill training.
Yep.
So the big thing here isn't to brag about what I was doing previously. The big thing here is, as coaches, we're doing all these things to help our athletes. We're trying to give them the best resources. We're trying to, let them have things that represent a first-class program. And as a coach, you feel like at times you don't want to like brag that you're doing all these things. But I can tell you that if you're not telling people what you're doing, nobody's really going to know outside of your players in your gym. So to be able to get this on people's radar that we've got all these exciting things happening, you've got to kind of be a mouthpiece for your program. Do you feel that in some capacity with your email newsletter where you're trying to get the word out on all the things that you're doing for your program?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we can use social media a lot. Obviously, I promote my program using our social media platforms. The newsletter, kind of going back to what you were saying, when I first started this, it was also a PDF. I used just kind of a Word doc at first, downloaded it as a PDF, and then I kind of upgraded to Canva, and would use that and download it as a PDF. And probably the past 6 years, I've been using an email, service website to do our newsletters. But there's a lot of individuals, a lot of alumni that I attach our newsletters to that like and enjoy seeing this stuff. And then you just have a lot of whether it's the sponsors we have through our season, companies that may sponsor us, parents, maybe some grandparents that may not have social media to see what's really going on. A lot of those individuals are the people that kind of see our newsletters as well.
Yeah, I think the important thing about what you said is you just got to get started if you want to promote your program. You don't have to send it out weekly or monthly. I would do quarterly at the most, which was like 4 emails a year. And it doesn't have to be some spectacular presentation. I have a background in graphic design, so I can put something together like this, no problem. But to start an email newsletter, it doesn't have to be flashy. You got to start collecting emails and you got to hit send. The biggest thing is getting something in motion as opposed to feeling like it's, perfect from the start. Just moving through this, here's just more kind of announcements. So we're saying farewell to one of our guards that had gotten some honors. We lost an assistant coach. We're promoting that. And that's all an email newsletter is here for me. So, we did three pages, but packed with information, looks good. Probably going to make a real good impression if we can get anybody to open it and see it. So I've got one more example here that I'll share, and then we're going to get into yours, Coach, which I'm excited to learn more about. What kind of strategies had you used in terms of building an email list? How are you getting people to send these to?
So, at first we started off by posting a sign up form on our social media platforms, just for anybody and everybody to join. Anytime I start with a new program, I try to collect all the alumni email addresses that I can get from the school, and send an email out to those alumni to, hey, doing a newsletter. Would love for you guys to subscribe to that. So again, I'll kind of use it in that way as well. And then to all of our parents, so our youth parents, middle school parents, high school parents, usually at the beginning of the season, I tell them, hey, I'm going to do a monthly newsletter. If you'd like to subscribe to that, click on this link to subscribe and join it that way.
Yeah, and even nowadays, you could be putting a QR code into the program. Something like that would make a lot of sense. We would do an email-based fundraiser. So what would happen is basically the kids would submit 20 emails to me. I would enter all those into a system. This was SnapRaise that I was using.
Yeah.
But basically, it required each kid to bring in 20 emails, and that's really all they had to do. We had to make a 1-minute video, and each kid brought in 20 emails, and then they would market to those emails and collect money from them. And they would take, like, I think it was like an 18% cut or something like that, and we would get to keep the rest. But it's the easiest fundraiser that you could do. It didn't take much time. The kids, you had to, lean on them a little bit to get them to submit the email addresses, because sometimes, the kids would struggle to come up with 20 emails, but most kids were able to figure it out. But that was a nice opportunity. I don't know if it was legal or not. It's probably past the statute of limitations at this point. But we would pop those are all people that are associated with the kids in our program. An easy way to kind of build a list right there. But I think it starts with your personal contacts. Who do I know that likes me and would be interested to follow along with what we're doing? And then how can I grab different people in the community and get them added in? If you could get like your school district to be able to put a link for people to track through to it, I think that would be a great method. But this is really guerrilla tactics of building an email list to be able to promote. So let's dig in. This is the second version of a newsletter. It's got the same kind of background, but again, we're starting quick hitters, and it's all this same kind of stuff where we're just making announcements. We're starting to talk about our youth program here. Here's the book that we're doing a study on. And a lot of these would have like hyperlinks in them where people could click on stuff and go to a different, thing that we were trying to promote. So we put our schedule in here. This must be before the season that we were sending this out. This is the official flyer to the event that we're putting together. But we've got, a season theme here. We're trying to get people to follow us on different social media platforms. This is our first, our team picture. We've got our seniors. We're promoting our fundraisers here, but that's really all that it is. It's a lot of promotion and just trying to keep people in the know. I know you do a lot of different things with your newsletters that I'm excited to hear about. So I'm going to pop mine off the screen and we'll try to load up yours. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, so tell me what I'm looking at here, Coach.
So this is just our main website here, and again, Coach, tell me, you can see me scrolling and kind of clicking and moving my mouse. So this is our main basketball website that I use, and again, not to really go too much into detail on this, but on our website, I put our schedules. I have a coaches corner section that's just for, our youth coaches, middle school coaches, and high school coaches. Has its own resources on it for them. But again, it's just kind of highlighting our staff. Our Spirit is our youth program. They have their own website. But again, when you kind of go on the landing page, you can click on our different social media links. It has our calendar of when our games are, has an embedded Facebook feed of just kind of seeing what we're posting on there. But the big part of it, I guess, is on our other tabs. I'll kind of go to our newsletter part here. One, it's a way for anybody to, like I said, we have an embedded form that you can type your email address in and subscribe. But then I also kind of put all of our past newsletters on there as well. So again, when I started and got this job in the spring of last year, kind of started my first newsletter there. And again, I do monthly. There've definitely been times where you kind of hit the summer. I might, skip, May and June and maybe write something in July or wait till, August or September hits just to kind of pile everything together, what we did in the summer. But for me personally, I do monthly.
Let's stop there and just talk about this, because I think if a coach was watching this and they were interested in doing this, one of the objections, or probably the biggest objection they would have, is I already got enough stuff to do. I got plenty to do. I'm not looking for new things to do. Why should I do this? And I think there is some validity to it.
Sure.
Especially there's validity to it if you're going to put a bunch of pressure on yourself to make sure you get it out on some super strict schedule or something like that. I might have said my email newsletter went out quarterly. I would venture to say we might have skipped some summers or skipped
Yeah.
some seasons. So there doesn't have to be a tremendous pressure to put information out, but you want to be able to communicate with people on a firsthand basis when you want to. And that's one of the benefits of the email marketing aspect of it, where about everybody has some kind of social media to promote their program.
Yep.
But if somebody's following your basketball program on social media, especially if you've been inactive for an off season and not really been posting a ton of stuff, you might fall out of their feed, or they might not get on to the feed that they are following you on. And email allows you to put a message right in their inbox where it's a lot easier for them to not miss it. So, social media is great, but social media is controlled by an algorithm. So you're dependent on these different platforms to show them these things that you want them to see. But even consolidating the things that you do on social media into an email newsletter, you have a lot better chance of getting that actually in front of the people you want to see it through your newsletter, as opposed to just kind of the randomness of what you see on social media. So I'm hoping that you're able to pop one of those open, and let's see what a sample looks like of your email newsletter.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I'll kind of start down here in the summer months when there's not much going on, just to kind of show you what I put on there. And coach, just to kind of go back to what you said real quick, one of the best pieces of advice I got, especially as a younger coach who's a lot more involved with the social media and technology and graphic design side of things, is one of the best pieces of advice I received is during those summer months when there's not too much going on, find something to post about at least once a week during those summer months. They always said that it keeps your platform popping up on their feed, so at least they don't forget about you. So even when we don't have much going on during the summertime, obviously I'm posting about my camps and recaps of the camps and stuff. But if there's a month or a couple weeks where I know we're not going to do anything, I'm going to find something to post. Whether it's maybe an alumni spotlight or pictures of the gym, the facilities, just something that we have. I'm big on the alumni board part 2, which you'll see in the newsletter here. But finding something to post even when you don't have much going on is key to that. But like I said, I'll bring up May here.
Yeah, Coach, I think one of the really exceptional things that you do, and this is something that I was big into too, is put a premium on the celebration of the history of the program, where you've got records and you've got spotlights on alumni. And this really ties the community together really well. When you're really active with your alumni, they are coming to games, they are writing checks, they are sending positive vibes out into the community when they have the opportunity to. So I think that there's a lot of coaches that neglect understanding where they're at and how they got there. And there's always a history to celebrate with schools. And I think the coaches that are able to capitalize on it, they reap benefits of it that are kind of really almost impossible to quantify.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more with that. So again, kind of looking at my newsletter here. Like I said, when I first started this, it was a Word doc downloaded as a PDF, and then I kind of went to Canva. I use a website.
I'm still seeing your website. Did you open one up?
Yes.
So we might need.
There we go.
There we go, Coach. Yep.
Sorry. Yep. Okay. So like I said, each newsletter I've done, from the different schools I've been to, I do my best to keep it the same format, the same setup. That way there's continuity to it. Those who do open the newsletters and read them every month, they kind of know like how the flow of the newsletter goes. I think that's very important. You want to keep it simple and precise, and yet easy to understand and read. I think that's important. But like I said, just going through this, and at any point, Coach, feel free to stop me and ask me a question. I'll just kind of explain how mine goes.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's a good point to stop on. Is basically there's a template base to what you're doing,
yeah,
and once you enter these links in one time, then it's repeatable. So you're not going in
yes,
every time you go to make a newsletter and adding your link to your website or your link to your Facebook or your link to your Twitter. Those are built in blocks.
yep,
And, so a lot of this is like when you go to do a newsletter, it might be half of it is already done for you because it's stable blocks that stay in your newsletter. And also with your formatting, you are preparing people for what to expect. So you talked about
yep,
the flow of the newsletter stays the same. People are, having kind of the similar experience each time they open that newsletter.
yep, yep, absolutely. Like I said, and I can bring up, I'll show you an example of this newsletter and maybe another, and then I can go to the actual website itself to just show you how
Yep.
that looks every
Yep.
time I open it. But like I said, I got some hyperlinks on the right side here, the website, Spirit Program, our social media platforms. And then again, on the left side, I kind of put what we are going to view in this newsletter. So as you can tell, you're going to see something about our summer camps, our
Yep.
youth training, all that stuff.
And is that
Um,
is that formatted so you could skip right to it or no?
no, you can. Yeah, if you can't click on it, it won't jump down on that. They might be able to do that. I haven't really tested that out too much.
Okay.
But as you scroll down, again, you kind of see I'm always showcasing our logo as much as I can, just for to always show that and kind of have it in people's faces. They're learning about Carroll basketball, and then again, we have a it's not so, but graphic design. We use Gipper
Okay.
for our stuff. So I'll make graphics in Gipper, download them, and then add them to this newsletter as well. So this graphic you see here is not made in the MailChimp email service website I use.
Right.
This was made in Gipper. I've downloaded it, dragged it to use it on my graphics here for this. But again, here we're highlighting our summer camps. There was a hyperlink to register for camp back in this May newsletter. But again, I provide that information there for that. Then we
Yeah.
go to
Do you think that your youth basketball program, you're able to capture emails from people that are participating in
yeah,
that, add them
yep,
in, which I
yep,
think there's huge compounding there because to be able to market to and present information to people on an ongoing basis, it's one thing if you have the parent of a senior that you get their email. It's another thing if you get a sixth grader and you're able
yes.
to keep this material in front of them for what could be in theory a 6-year run of working with their child.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime once our camp registration is over, I just take all those email addresses and add them to our our website server here, email server. So yeah, everybody that signs up for anything within our program, even our youth training, just because I'm
Yep.
looking at it right now, that I just collect all those email addresses and add it to it.
Yep. Okay. Sorry for interrupting you, Coach. I'll let
No,
you
you're
get.
fine. You're fine. But like I said, so each heading just kind of has its own information on it. Scrolling down, you kind of just see the different things we have. Our Spirit program, that's our youth program. But the biggest things I try to highlight the most in every newsletter, I always do an update on our youth program, and I always try to do an alumni spotlight. So every alum that's come through the program, I've usually reach out to, especially any of them that maybe played in college or are currently coaching or did something professional, or maybe a CEO in their own right of their own business or company. I've always tried to do a spotlight on them, so I'll reach out to the alumni, get some basic information on them, kind of who they were when they graduated, what they did, what they're doing now. For example, this one's Nate Wally. He's the current head coach at Muskingum University. So he was my first alumni spotlight.
Yeah.
Um,
This is extra work to be reaching out to alumni and building profiles of them, but I can't express enough how much this comes back to your program.
Yeah.
I mean, and I hate to feel like equate things to fundraisers, but I can tell you anytime that we've brought somebody back to honor them, or we have done a blurb in the email newsletter, when we need a table of people for our fundraiser event, those people are not only like willing to do it, they're like volunteering. How can I help? How can I,
Yes. Yeah.
um, and that's really, to run a first class program, it's got to be, there's a lot of elements to it. And part of that is fundraising, and to have sources that you can go to buy a table or buy a ticket, or show up to games. I think it's huge. And the direct connection of, we honor our alumni, to what you get out of it is hard to quantify, but I can tell you it's more than what you put into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we kind of talked a little bit earlier that we did a similar fundraiser, an online fundraiser as well. And you could probably ask our alumni here at Carroll. I have probably reached out to them multiple times, not for fundraising, but simply just for, here's what we're doing in the program, right? Here's our newsletter. I'll talk about our alumni board here in a second. It's really important as a head coach of a high school program, any program, college level, high school, whatever it may be, to involve your alumni. I am really big on the history and tradition of a program, especially for those who may see the stuff I do. I think it's easy to tell that, just because they are a part of it. I'm not from Carroll, didn't graduate from there or anything, but it's important because a program is a program, and it means something to someone, and just taking the time to get to know them, hear their stories, hear why that school is important to them. It helps them feel value and important. And then on the flip side of it, if you're doing fundraising, if you need help, just like you said, they're always the first ones to jump on board to help out.
Yeah, I'll tell you how sick I was as a basketball coach, and that is when I got my first head coaching job. I was 26 years old. I had some of these skills that we talked about already, but I was dumped off a barrel of VHS tapes that were different games throughout St. Thomas Aquinas's history, not ones that I'd coached. But I went through all those tapes, and I made highlight reels of like the Hall of Fame players from our program, and put those out on YouTube. I'm gonna try to pull one of those up real quick here. But yeah, I'm splicing film together to celebrate these players that I didn't even coach. And I can remember a guy that was a basketball coach who had moved down to Florida, and we put out his mixtape, his 1997-98 mixtape, and that guy was hooked on whatever it is that we wanted to do, whatever we needed for our program. And I wouldn't advise this for most coaches, to go out there and start making mixtapes of the Hall of Famers in their program. But these are the lengths that people go to, and these are probably the lengths that people go to that people you're competing with.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing it, somebody else is, and you've obviously got to draw a line at certain places on what you do and what you don't do. But when you're 25, 26 years old, you have a lot of energy and enthusiasm to throw at something. I would say, you're looking for innovative ways to bring that. So this I have to show, because this just seems insane to me that I did this.
Matt, it's actually funny you say that, because I did some similar stuff when I was at Springfield Catholic Central. I was at London at my last stop, but that's funny you say. I very similar, had a bunch of VHS tapes I set in my basement, and it took a long time, but again, I enjoy doing that stuff, so it worked out.
So this is 8th all-time leading scorer at Aquinas. This is 97-98. I didn't get to Aquinas until 2013. So this is a good, 15 years before I
Yeah.
even got to it. But we're doing highlight tapes to celebrate the history of the program, and then to have this as a weapon to be able to share it on social media, to be able to
Yep.
share it on a newsletter, to be able to send it to the alumni individually. I feel like you have to be a little bit crazy to do something like this, but I had a lot of fun, and I
Yep.
think it's just awesome for if you're trying to build a program to really celebrate that history and build off that history.
Yep.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah, hadn't even thought of that until we got on the call here, and I did want to share it. But right
Yeah.
now, let's get back into your newsletter.
Well, and one more thing, as you're saying that, something else I do, and part of it is for those alumni. At the end of every season, I make about a 10 to 15-minute highlight tape of the whole season.
Uh-huh.
So again, just some games and clips, and then there's kind of like pictures at the end of our seniors and just things we did throughout the season. But I save those and share those on my own YouTube channel, so that way, you know, a lot of guys may not remember the scores, but they'll remember, just kind of what happened and games and practices. And I still have some of my former players that graduated 10, 12 years ago that still will go watch some of those YouTube highlights of their seasons and just, reminisce on some of those days. So that's funny
Yeah.
you said that about the video thing.
One of my former players is an electrician now, and I was talking to him because he was going to come do some electrical work, and he said
Yeah,
he had told me I ran into Austin and those guys a couple weeks ago, and we were pulling up those videos and we were watching them when we were together, which is just
that's
like
funny. That's awesome.
validates the effort that you put into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so
Um,
what kind of content sections are we working here with your newsletter, Coach?
So right here again, this is the first newsletter I had. I have like a sign up form for just my alumni. So that's what this section was. So all my alumni could have clicked this link and kind of put in their own personal information for me to have on that. But again, it kind of highlights some of our alums right here as well. And again, this first newsletter, it's a little more different than the other ones I have, but I try to upload all the old team photos and action shots I could find, have links to those for people to view. I always do a book of the month. I always share that with our families and people who are signed up on this. All the books I ever put on here each month are ones that I've read, that I've always enjoyed. Obviously, John Gordon.
I
Uh,
In my newsletter that we showed earlier, we had the Energy Bus
yep,
as one of our program books that we studied. So
yep, yep.
that's a good one.
So I saw that, and then I usually finish with some kind of infographic that's relatable to families and athletes and different things. So I usually kind of have that on there. Then towards the bottom again, just kind of has our mailing address. That's like I said, that's kind of one. I'll go to one that I've done recently.
Yeah.
Here.
I think again, I think this is the best that you're going to get at the high school level, and I don't want it to be an intimidating factor for coaches to get started, because it doesn't have to be as good as coaches is from the beginning. It's something that you build up to, and
Sure.
Coach has been doing this for years, so he has a lot of experience. But the digital email newsletter idea is a really good idea. And I think the biggest thing is getting started instead of trying to think about how could I do something this good? You don't have to do something this good.
No.
You just got to get started.
Yep. Yep. And like I said, real quick on this one, then I'll show you how I built it. Again, this one was for this month. So I did a little section about New Year's resolutions. Kind of had a graphic there. So here's where we kind of start promoting our program, because we're in season. So one of our community service projects is we went to one of the local elementary schools. So I highlighted that about our program. So these are our high school kids hanging out with some elementary students right before the holidays. Here we're reading to some kids. Some of them were coloring with some of the elementary students. So anytime you can highlight the actual high school program itself is very important. So we highlight that in our newsletters. We had a team bonding Secret Santa thing we did with our program. So took some pictures and highlighted that a little bit in our newsletter. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that if you're doing this stuff, if you're doing the off the court, if you're doing the team bonding stuff, that's perfect material for this kind of distribution where
Yep.
you're trying to showcase. I think the building block of what you're trying to promote would be the scores of your games and keeping people
Yep.
informed, but you're also branching out into all this other stuff, and you're showing that your basketball program is more than just we
Yeah.
show up on Tuesdays and Fridays and play games and here's a result. That we are trying to impact the community, that we're trying to have our players, there be personal development for our players. We're giving a lot of experiences that are not necessarily basketball game related. So I think you do a perfect job with that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Like I said, hey, we had an alumni night. Again, going back, touching base on the alumni, every newsletter. We, asked all the former coaches and players to come back, get honored and recognized at halftime of a varsity game. So, just adding some pictures and some information on that. Again, we have this alumni board in our locker room. So anytime an alum stops by, we always ask him to come and sign the alumni board where they put their name, the jersey number, and the year they graduated. So here are just some pictures of that.
This is a fantastic idea. I think we could do a whole show dedicated to this
Oh yeah.
alumni board. And I can tell you, because I just remodeled a playroom of a 7-year-old. We did a sign-in sheet on the door for her playroom. And I instantly felt pressure to invite people over so we could have people sign on the board, because I didn't want to have a sign-in board for her playroom and it just be her signature and her dad's signature and her sister's signature.
Yeah.
We wanted to fill that thing up. So I love
That's
this
funny.
idea, and I do think it kind of spurns the opportunity for you to bring these people and get them involved and have
Yeah.
them sign this board.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And like I said, it just kind of it brings the program as a family. So anytime you can highlight and showcase your alumni, I highly recommend it. With that, and then like I said, so I always do something with the alums and then our youth. So the past and the future. So we have a spirit night, our youth night coming up, where our youth teams come and get recognized. This is me promoting that event. And then just kind of adding, hey, here's how our youth teams have been doing, click here for their schedules and, results, just kind of adding some pictures of our youth teams there just to keep our youth families involved, show that, hey, we care about our youth teams. And that way the families know that, again, we're tying all three pieces together of the past, present, and future of our program here. And then again, just finishing with the book of the month and the infographic.
Yeah, what I also like about this medium of distribution here is, from a fundraising element, you can begin to sell packages that people can buy into.
Yep.
So I think there's some different effective strategies that you can do with fundraising. And part of that is providing like tiers of buy-in if you're going to approach people. So if I'm coming to you as an individual, I'm not going to ask you for $500 to support our program. I might ask you for $20, a $20 raffle ticket. But when I go into a big business that I'm associated with, or if I go into a business and one of our former alumni is the owner of it, I don't want to ask him for $20. I want to ask him for $500 or $1,000.
Sure.
And part of that is you can make like packages or tiers that a business could buy into, where part of that is you're going to be in our program, you're going to be in our newsletter, you're going to be on our website, you're going to have signage at our events, and you roll all that together to increase the kind of the value of the visibility that you would be giving a business. So this fits right into this as like another outlet where you can promote, people that want to sponsor your basketball program.
Yep. And we used to, I haven't done it yet with Carol, but when I was at London, we did game ball sponsorships. So we would have different levels where we would reach out to businesses in the community and ask them to sponsor a game ball to where their business just kind of got recognized during a game night. And
Mhm.
if they had coupons or flyers they wanted us to distribute, we would do that. At my old school, we had a big video board in the gym, so we would kind of throw their logo and company up on the
Yep.
video board for people to see. But we had different tiers to where they could sponsor us and different levels. Maybe their name was on our camp T-shirt for that summer,
Yep.
but through that, we would also highlight them on our newsletter as well. So whether it's on our social media platforms, we would highlight them, but we would also include them in our monthly newsletters. That way, everybody would see their company's logo and name out there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy, Coach.
Yeah. So like I said, I can go now, Matt, to show you guys how I kind of build it,
Yep.
if you'd like. And like I said, at any point, if you need to pause and say, hey, what is this and how does that
Yeah.
work? Just let me know.
Yeah, why don't you pull that up on the back end, and I'll try to talk with you here while you get that ready. You just let me know when it's ready. I know when
Yep.
I demonstrated a newsletter that I put together at the beginning of this broadcast. You've demonstrated ones that you put together. What do you think of the idea of a head coach not being 100% directly connected to the creation of this? I think it might a lot of coaches, they might think, I got a lot of stuff I need to do. This
Sure.
doesn't need to be one of them. But if you can outsource this to maybe somebody
Yep.
on your coaching staff, a parent,
Yep.
somebody in your booster club, and they could bring it, 80% to the finish line. And then as a head coach, you're adding in, okay, here are the key dates we need to hit, or
Yeah.
we got to get something in there about our youth, where you're acting more of as an editor and less of the technical person behind the scenes making a lot of the decisions on what would go into a newsletter. Do you think that is a sustainable practice, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're someone who doesn't have the time, or maybe not as tech savvy, definitely have an assistant do it. If you can have an assistant, maybe a parent that's really into these kind of things and would love to do that. I think it's important in today's day and age to promote your program in any way you can. And if you don't feel as comfortable doing something like this, if you can find the help, I would highly recommend that for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think this is, you're talking about curating information. As a basketball head coach, you're not the only person in your community that can curate information. You
Yep.
may have to be able, you're going to have to point out things directly that you want highlighted.
Yep.
But as far as like gathering links and building branding and things like that, there's all kinds of people that can do it if you have a vision and you can articulate that to somebody else. Coach,
Yeah.
do you have the back end pulled up? I'll throw that on the
Yep.
screen when you do.
Yep. I think it's showing up right now, I think.
All right. So All right, so we're in the back end of your newsletter email builder. I've never been into MailChimp. I use
Okay.
ConvertKit for my email newsletter that I send out to basketball coaches. But I would
Sure.
imagine most of these services, Constant Contact, MailChimp,
Yeah.
ConvertKit, they're all going to function to
Pretty similar.
pretty
Yep.
similar. What other platforms can you think of off the top of your head that might be good? People are using Beehive
Okay.
nowadays. Is there any others that you can think of?
Actually, Gipper, who we use for our, I didn't know this until we had it. So we used to use Box Out Sports at my old school. And
Uh-huh.
now we use Gipper here at Carroll, but I didn't know this, but Gipper, which a lot of, schools have some kind of graphic design program now, but Gipper actually has a newsletter template that you could also
Yep.
start designing stuff and send out via email with just a hyperlink. So that's just kind of another easy, two birds with one stone kind of a idea as well.
So a quick Google search is going to recommend MailChimp, MailerLite, Beehive, Substack, ConvertKit, Flowdesk. Those would all be kind of services that you could use. And what I would recommend is, you don't want to be like just sending these from your personal email address with everybody's contact
Right.
information. Like you need to go through a service to legitimize it, where you're using a third party company to facilitate this information distribution.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like emailing yourself with 100 BCC emailed addresses, that's not the appropriate way to do this. You do need to use a service like a MailChimp, what we're looking at now.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, when I signed up for this, I had to use my personal email address and contact when I made an account for MailChimp. However, there's ways to put it to, again, I'm a teacher, so I have a school email, but I'm able to use my
Right.
school email. That way when it comes up, it says it's from my school email and the name and everything.
Yeah, and I don't know that I explained that very well. It's fine that the sending email is coming directly from Coach Sarensen. It could come from a program email or it could come from Coach Sarensen, but you don't want to be in your Gmail literally copy and pasting the receiver's email addresses into a BC something like that. It's fine if it's fine to come from Coach Sarensen, but you don't want to be personally doing it. You want to be using a third party.
Yes. Yep. So, so like I said, I mean, over here, what's really nice about some of these email service platforms is, the analytics side of things. So right now I have close to about 500 people signed up for our newsletter.
Nice.
Anytime I send out one, I can go to, let me just kind of go to show you here, but I can go to, it's called a campaign is what it's called here, but I can go to the January 2026 newsletter I sent. And if I click on view report, it'll take me to all the analytics I want to see. So it'll tell me if I have any email, like bounced emails, meaning these are emails that are incorrect or no longer being used. It'll tell me how many people have opened it at that time. And all the different things. And what's really unique about it is, actually, let me go back to another one here that I had. 196 opens. What's really unique is it'll tell me who's opened it, how many times that individual has opened it, what they click on. So it kind of gives me an idea as I'm building these newsletters and working on them. What are people really clicking on? What are people not? That kind of helps me say, oh, I guess you can't see it now that I'm opening it.
You ever see people in the community and you're like, I saw you opened our email 3 times. Why are you so obsessed with the basketball?
Yeah, no, I don't. But it helps me in the back of my mind to really show who's really watching and looking into us and who's not.
Coach, is it true that you determine your varsity playing time by the families that open the most emails?
Absolutely
that rumor's been going around town.
Yeah, absolutely not. But again, it's really neat just to show you, like it'll tell you all the stats you want to see, how many opens, sends, who's clicking on what, all the different things. So again, I like it. I think it's really neat on how it does that. And then, like I said, I'll kind of show you now how one gets built. Again, you can start from scratch sometimes when you go here. So on here, it says email templates. Sometimes the website itself has templates already made, which is nice. So sometimes you can just click on one, create template. You can build it your own way. I started from scratch when I started mine.
Yeah, and a lot of the services now, you can attach a brand kit. So they'll have templates and you can put your logo and your colors in and they'll change the template to fit your brand kit.
Yes. Yep. Which is nice. And again, it makes your job a lot easier when it comes to building these.
All right. Popping up real quick, we've got Coach Tyler Bates, who says, I met Coach Sarensen at Jay Billis's camp.
Yeah, Tyler.
Years ago.
I did. Yeah, I remember Tyler. How is Tyler? I hope you're doing well, man.
Tyler's checking in on Facebook. Okay. We're looking at getting into a template, getting into your template and seeing how you kind of patch things together here.
Yep. So again, I'm opening up a template of one I currently use. The nice part is if you do the work the first time, it's a lot easier every time you send one of these out. So that's the hardest part, is just trying to come up with a format. What headings do you typically want to have on there? And again, just so people know, for anybody that wants to think about starting to use a newsletter, if they haven't already, you are more than welcome to copy mine, use my format. I could care less who uses it and what they put on it. But coming up with a format that fits your program, your community, is the hardest part. But once you get it, it's a lot easy from there.
Yeah. What would you estimate in terms of a percentage of when you put together an email newsletter, how much of it is original material and how much of the newsletter is kind of repeatable sections?
I would say repeatable sections is probably 40%, and
Yeah.
then
Yep.
filling, like, just updating the program itself is about 60% of, okay, here's what we did,
Yep.
this past month, and just getting the pictures and getting the wording down,
Yeah.
is
So
the
if
majority of
it
it.
seems daunting to a coach, what you're really talking about here is when you open your newsletter, 40% after you've done it one time, 40% of your newsletter is already written itself. And then you're just asking yourself, what's going on in our program? And you've lived it, you've experienced it. So you
Yep.
know what your middle school
Sure.
teams are doing, you know what fundraiser you're running, you know what events coming up, you know if there's a big game to promote. So it's really not like there's a lot of creative element to it. It's basically you've got your template and then you're thinking about the things that are going on that you're experiencing right now as a coach in a program.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I know you mentioned the blocks, so you can kind of see on the right side of the screen, it gives you, do you want to add text? Do you want a divider? Do you want an image group? But again, each thing you click on, right, you can edit in it. You can type how you want it. If I wanted to add, let's say I wanted to add an image, I click it and I drag it to where I want to add an image at. You drop the block, and again, you just kind of keep it simple. You upload the images you want on there. Again, you can see all the images I've uploaded in my own folder here. But again, you can drag stuff, you can move it. I mean, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to do. And the nice part is you save your templates, and then they're always there for you.
Uh-huh.
That way, so when I come into when I do February, I'm simply just gonna type in February, and just kind of be ready from there. And the hyperlinks stay the same. I don't change those. Only stuff I really change is just the what's in the issue, for that month. And again, that's kind of it. I keep my headings the same. I just change the wording to it. And the nice part is if you're somebody who struggles on what to write, that's kind of the beauty of AI today. You can throw some headings in that, hey, AI, help me draft a section for my newsletter. This is what we did at St. Helens School. And again, it might just give you something to pop up. And, you can kind of use AI as a tool as well for the newsletters.
Yeah, I don't think, I do think that there's factors in this that would give a coach pause on whether they want to do it, but I don't think coming up with content or information is one of them. You're going through the experiences, you're just noting the things that you're doing, and there's assistance in putting things together, whether it's somebody that you farmed the task out to, or even an
Yep.
AI like what Coach had talked about.
Yep. Absolutely. So, like I said, Coach, that's kind of it. In a simple way of explaining it. But if you got pictures, you got stuff going on in the program, I highly recommend you publicize that not only on your social media, but if you have the time, or you have somebody that be willing to help, I really think a newsletter is a great way to go. And again, I didn't come up with the newsletter. I know we talked earlier. We, as coaches, we steal from others. A program that was really big into newsletters when I first got into coaching was Xavier.
Yeah.
So when they started doing theirs, I always liked it, and then I started doing my own newsletters because of them. And anything you see that we do in our program, I'm taking from somebody else. I don't come up with these ideas on my own.
Yeah, those Xavier newsletters are the good old days. They would
Yeah,
put drills in there. They would update
yeah,
on their program. They really had a lot of coaches hooked up to that content. When I was doing some content for social media, I went back and looked through a bunch of their newsletters for different drills
yeah,
to steal out of there to publish as social media content. But another person would be Mike Neighbors, who's gotten into the email newsletter. When he was at Washington, he was putting out an email newsletter that was fantastic. But all of those are something that a coach could look up the archives of either one of those, the Mike Neighbors at Washington or that old Xavier newsletter. And that could be some examples or samples of things that you could post as content. It's different because the Xavier newsletter was built by Xavier for basketball coaches. And what we're talking about here is something that's built by a varsity head coach for their specific community. So you wouldn't necessarily be putting in drills or things for coaches. You would be putting in stuff more geared towards your community.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd want to show us about the back end of your email builder, or do you feel like that's a good coverage, Coach?
No, I mean, like I said, you build the template. And again, if this is something you want to do and you want to try MailChimp, obviously they have different, subscription plans itself. I want to say the free version, most of them have free versions. So if you're just starting out, I highly recommend doing a free version. Just to kind of get it going. I think I pay now for one that's monthly. That's like $5 or $10 a month, just because my audience is starting to build up a lot more, and it kind of exceeded the free package plan.
And most coaches, if they're trying to start something like this, they're not going to have a volume of email addresses that's even going to put them into a paid tier.
No,
so you're at 500 and you're starting to hit a paid tier. I can tell you my newsletter on ConvertKit, I've got 26,000 coaches, and that can be expensive. But if you've got 26,000 people on your community basketball coaching email newsletter, then you're probably doing something really, really right. But most coaches aren't going to hit a capacity that's even going to be, have a monthly cost to it. It can all be done on a free tier.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, you create it. Do a campaign. What's nice about these, let me see. Let me just kind of create a campaign like I'm going to do one here just to show you real quick before we get off. But
one thing to bring up was what I would do when I would do like a youth coaches clinic at the beginning of the season. And that would be all of our youth coaches coming to the gym. We'd give them pizza. I would talk to them about a vision for what we're doing with our program. I would give them a packet of drills and skills and a progression like that. And one of the things that I would do is I'd put a page in there that was a call to action to those coaches. And it was like, help me promote your level of the program. So I would encourage them to send pictures and send updates. And I would get middle school coaches and youth coaches emailing me and saying, our 6th grade travel team won the Hudson Kiwanis tournament this weekend. And, this Jeremy scored, 20 points in the championship. And that becomes easy content to put in your newsletter. And then your newsletter feels like it's not a varsity basketball focus, which yours very much doesn't, but it feels like what it should be, which is kind of a celebration of a vertical program that starts with your youth programs and ends with your varsity team and extends into your alumni.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, the more you're in contact as the varsity head coach with your youth program director, if you're fortunate enough to have one like we are, and same with your alumni, the more in contact you are, the more information they're going to provide to you, just like you shared, Matt. So I definitely agree with that. But like I said, just the back end of it, if you create one, it'll give you all the steps, who's it from, what's the subject. So again, I keep my subject the same every single time I send a newsletter. That way there's a flow to it, a familiarity with everybody that opens my emails. They see it'll say Carroll Basketball Monthly Newsletter with a basketball emoji on it or something. But again, it's very easy to navigate, easy to type in. You upload your template here, and again, I can schedule mine to be sent out. I can connect them to my social media platforms. That way it'll post it on Facebook as well, as receiving it in an email. So again, a lot of nice features. They kind of do a lot of the work for you, but once you start it, that's the hardest part, is just getting it started. But once you get a a format down, a flow of how you want to do things. It's pretty simple from there on out.
Coach, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I can say just
Yeah,
in my time crossing paths with you, there's a saying, real recognize real. You're one of the real program builders out there. You're doing these extra things to compound success in your program. And with enough time, your program's going to reap so many benefits of all the things that you're investing into it. I know that coaching nowadays can become, let the private school in the area suck up all the talent and try to compete against that. And this is the approach to basketball coaching that I appreciate, and that all of my mentors took to build basketball programs, which is a community-based approach where you're trying to maximize all the tools that you have in your basketball community, as opposed to just trying to go out and be an AAU coach and pull in the best talent
sure.
and bring in a new starting five every year. So I very much appreciate that about you. And I think that you're somebody that anybody that really desires to build a basketball program in the proper way, my opinion, you would be somebody to study and copy.
Well, Matt, I really appreciate the kind words. And, I'm still a real young coach. I'm learning every day. I mess up all the time and, just trying to figure out how to do this the right way. And, for anybody that's watching and listening, to give a shout out to you, Coach. You do a tremendous job. I think every coach out there, regardless of what level they're at, really needs to take a look into all the resources you provide, especially your powerhouse program building platform that you have. I have access to it and use your resources all the time, and I highly recommend everybody out there to also dive into what you do, because what you do for this community is incredible, and the amount of hours you put in, and all the resources you provide and share with everybody. It's not only been very useful to me, and I'm still looking into it and still learning from you as well, but highly recommend for anybody listening to really look into your stuff as well.
Well, I really appreciate those kind words. And just like we started this conversation, we were talking about stealing ideas from other coaches. And,
Yeah.
I put out a lot of content. I put out products. I do a lot of different stuff online to engage the coaching community. And, very little of it is some unique thought that I've created on my own with no inspiration from anybody else. We're all kind of borrowing ideas, making them our own. And, that's kind of the beauty of basketball coaching, where, there's an offense circle motion that I talk about all the time and that I've ran.
Yeah.
And now there's kind of this community of coaches that are all using
Yeah.
it too. And when I look at film of coaches running circle motion, it can look completely different from coach to coach, as opposed to how mine looked. And that's
Yeah.
what the beauty of it is you take a concept, you figure out your own kind of timing and spacing, and all of a sudden the same offense can look completely different just by a coach kind of molding it into their own wants and needs at that time. But
Yeah.
Coach, hey, thank you so much. I'd love to start brainstorming some different ideas to use you in various capacities, to talk about program building, to talk about basketball tactics. But I think this has been a fantastic presentation for the audience. And I would encourage any coach that's on the fence about using an email newsletter to promote their program to just get going, just to not overthink it, to not feel like it has to be perfect, but
No.
publish your first issue. And then from there, you just try to make it a little bit better each time.
Absolutely. And again, if anyone that has questions, feel free to reach out to Coach here, and he can share my contact information. I have no problem with that, and I'd be glad to kind of walk you through anything you need to know.
All right. Thanks again, Coach. Hey, we're going to sign off for today. We'll talk
Thank
soon.
you. All right. Thanks, Coach.
Take care.